love that you're still on AOL.
Oh my God, I sent Joe an email today.
I'll call the meeting to order, and we will say the pledge at the start of the regular session. We are here for a workshop with ITD. Shannon, please note that all council members are present with the exception of Mr. Walker, and I'm assuming he's going to show up. So with that, who's running the show? And ladies, just so you know, we need to be done by about 10 minutes to 6.
We have half an hour planned, so
Perfect.
that should do it for us.
You're already our favorites.
I know, right? We'll see. I like to talk about this project, so like you can start like doing this if I start
Well, we want to hear
rambling,
about
right?
it too.
Yeah, so I'm Shannon Steinem with the Idaho Transportation Department. I have Erica Bowen with me and then Megan Johns as well. Erica's one of our other project managers in the Tekken program, which we'll be talking about here in a little bit, and Megan is our public information officer. So we're here tonight to do kind of an ITD update as it relates to the city of Post Falls with a couple of pretty exciting projects that we have coming forward for you. Just wanted to start real quick though, because this is going on and I'm sure you guys all have questions now that it's getting underway. Just a real quick update on where we're at on the Mulligan to Prairie expansion. This is what it's looking like now. I kind of think we're getting to the point where, you know, you got the house up, you got it framed, you're starting to put the sheetrock up and you can kind of see what it's looking like. So really exciting on that. We're hoping to get, weather permitting, that work kicked off next week. And so one of the first things we're going to be doing is moving traffic over to the west side on Highway 41 from Horsehaven to 12th, and then working on the south end where we have existing Highway 41 right now. Redoing that, getting that rebuilt, and then once that's built, completing all the southbound lanes, and then putting traffic in the 4-lane configuration will be in for the final, and get our final lift of northbound lanes paved under traffic. And so one of the things we did with this is we set our final lift of paving to be done at the end so that we don't have the ghost lines from our temporary pavement. So that's why we have the northbound lanes at the end right away there. So we're moving along on that. Just wanted to give you guys a quick update. Hopefully next week it'll start to look a lot more like an in-progress construction project. So knock on wood there weather-wise.
So as Shannon said, my name's Erica Bowen. I'm one of the Tekken project managers at ITD. So Tekken stands for Transportation Expansion and Congestion Mitigation Program. And before we go into some of the details of all the exciting improvements that is going on I-90, we just wanted to give you a little bit of background about this program and funding source. So probably as you know, with the influx of everybody moving to Idaho, Idaho was the fastest growing state in the nation last year at about 2.9%. And so our Idaho Transportation Board sat down and looked at this rapid growth compounded by aging infrastructure and increased traffic congestion everywhere and said, we really need to be proactive and get ahead of the curve about how we treat our transportation system. And so the solution they came up with is they worked with our Idaho state legislators, and they decided, let's fund a program that we can accelerate really critical design and construction projects to get ahead. And so they picked 13 critical corridors across Idaho, and those are represented by the dots on the map. And with this, they're looking at a combination of pay-as-you-go and bonding. And where they foresee this overall program total being is about $1.6 billion that we're going to spend within these 13 corridors. Now, $1.6 billion is a lot. It certainly doesn't address all the needs. I know when the districts went through and they started looking at where were all the needs that they saw, I think it's closer to $9 billion. So the state's going to have to get creative in how we prioritize projects, as well as looking at other opportunities and funding sources besides this 1.6. But this is a steady stream that we've got. Benefits of doing it this way is, like I said before, accelerated construction projects for these critical corridors is going to improve quality of life for Idahoans. You know, some of this is widening of infrastructure, adding capacity, and when you're stuck in traffic, all you want is that extra lane that you can pass everyone on. And then enhanced traffic flow, so helping with reduced congestion, and then also safety. There's a lot of safety improvements involved in these projects. So what exactly is the Leading Idaho Tekken program? So the Idaho legislature passed House Bill 362 last year in May. And in that bill, it specifically says the Tekken program shall finance projects that expand the state system to address and mitigate transportation congestion. So through Idaho sales tax revenue, ITD will get a dedicated $80 million annually to put towards this program. We'll be using that $80 million in addition to going out for bonds. Our first bond sale will actually be this spring. And between both of those funding sources, the overall program, again, goes up to about $1.6 billion. And that's to modernize the system, address safety and capacity needs across these 13 corridors. And just so that we focus on District 1, so that map in the right, it's a little blurry from my vision, but we have 2 corridors in District 1 that are identified as these Tekken corridors. The first is US 95, Guardwood to Sagal. So the original environmental study on that was conducted in 2010, and District 1 ITD has been doing a steady, great job of adding infrastructure and capacity on that corridor. And so there's one final stretch between Sagal and then the Long Bridge just south of Lake Pend Oreille that still needs improvements on it. So we're going out for a 2-year study right now to look at what else needs to be done. Obviously widening US 95, but what sort of intersection improvements needs to come in as well. So that's one project that we're working on with that corridor. And then the I-90 corridor, we have 2 projects going on right now through that. The first one is the one that I'm working on. It's the corridor study from Washington State Line through Coeur d'Alene. So we're actually ending in Sherman Avenue. And so this is a study that will finish up next year. And we're looking at what are the needs, future needs of the corridor. For interchanges, for ramps, for some of the local roads, widening itself. And once we finish that up, we'll be able to then package that up into various design packages and then hopefully construction packages and just keep moving this corridor forward. And then the other project that Shannon's going to talk with you on is the State Highway 41 interchange reconstruction. Last month we were really excited. ITD's board approved Tekken funding for this project, and so her project gets to get accelerated to this summer instead of waiting an extra year.
Oh,
so.
wow.
Yeah.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, so my construction workload this summer changed rather significantly in the space of a month. So quite exciting times. So wanted to recap. I know some of you guys have heard us speak about this project here before. I know some of you guys are new and it's been a while. That really the I-90 41 interchange is primarily a safety project, right? Especially the westbound off-ramp or that loop ramp has had several severe and fatal crashes on it. We also throughout the rest of the 41 corridor between Celtice and Mulligan have had some other less severe type crashes. And so from a safety perspective, that's really how this project started, right? We also look at kind of where we're at. The bridges are not at the point where they've aged out to need replacement, but they're getting close. And then this project also sets us up really well for strategizing how is ITD going to start widening I-90. You know, this was even before the Tekken program, but it still holds true now. What are our choke points that we need to get built? And this is one of them. It also ties into a lot of the rest of the work that we're doing to expand Highway 41. So it's really an important project that way. And so one of the goals was to improve safety and then also to improve traffic flow. And we really, I think we were able to do this in a good way. We were able to minimize impacts to local businesses, permanent with right-of-way impacts, and we avoided all, you know, some original concepts had some full buyouts of businesses, and we've been able to avoid that through the process. So I think we've come to a really good alternative that kind of balances the needs of this expanded system that we need with the impacts to the surrounding area. So just timeline, we've been working on this since fall of 2017, working with various stakeholders. Bill and Rob have been very involved, very good partners with us on this. Started with a value planning session in the fall of 2018, which that is basically kind of like a brainstorming session for alternatives on steroids, right? We ended up evaluating a total of 59 alternatives to come up with the one we have, which actually was a result of the first public meeting, right? So we came up with our 2 preferred alternatives out of the value planning session and then ended up combining our top 2 alternatives based on public feedback. And then we've done a variety of staging workshops. We added on the Mulligan Avenue intersection improvements. Those were originally going to be another project that would take place after this on Highway 41. So we rolled that into this project to just try to, you know, keep the amount of time 41's under construction as in control as we can. And then got to do a virtual public hearing in the spring of 2020, so that was fun. And then we are at the point where I just yesterday sent in the completed PS&E package, which is the plan, specs, and estimate. It's the final bid-ready package to headquarters, and so we're undergoing one final consistency check from them and hope to be out for advertisement here in a couple weeks and start construction this summer. So the best way, I think, to show what the scope and what the proposed project will be, because it's a little bit unique, especially if you're looking at it, is to show this flyover video that we made.
Is it still called a SPUI?
It is called a SPUI. It's
That's
called
one
an
of my favorite
offset
acronyms,
SPUI.
so
I
I just
know.
want to make sure.
Yep. Yeah, we made this video before we got advanced, so.
Changes are coming to the I-90 corridor in Post Falls, beginning in 2023. The existing Interstate 90 and Idaho Highway 41 interchange will be replaced with a new interchange. Community input from 2 public open houses in 2018 and 2019 helped guide the redesign of the interchange. Concerns were shared regarding the safety of the existing westbound loop ramp and a few other aspects of the interchange. The current design eliminates the need for a loop ramp and addresses many other concerns heard at the open houses. The community strongly supports the need for this project, and the new interchange design will improve safety, capacity, and operations throughout. Construction will occur in several stages over multiple seasons. 2 lanes of traffic will flow in each direction along I-90 throughout the project during peak travel hours. When construction is complete, the project will also improve bike and pedestrian access. The interchange type is known as an offset single-point urban interchange, or SPUI. Rather than a traditional diamond interchange with 2 sets of traffic signals for on and off ramps, a SPUI has 1 signal which controls all of the interchange traffic. Unlike a traditional interchange with 4 signal phases, the SPUI will have 3 phases which will increase efficiency. The Idaho Transportation Department would like to show you how this interchange will work so that you are familiar with it when it opens. Traffic will be controlled by a single signal located in the center of the interchange. This signal will control through movements on Highway 41, the traffic that is not turning, traffic leaving I-90 and turning left onto Highway 41, and traffic leaving Highway 41 and turning left onto I-90. Highway 41 will be relocated to cross under I-90, west of the current crossing location. A concrete curb will be added to divide northbound and southbound traffic from the new interchange to north of Mulligan Avenue. Reinforcing existing access patterns, traffic leaving businesses within this stretch of Highway 41 will be unable to turn left across the divider, making this section of the corridor safer. Traveling from I-90 to Highway 41, drivers will exit via the ramps and either cross under I-90 or use the new ramp that replaces the existing loop ramp. Drivers traveling northbound on Highway 41 from Herborn to I-90 will either turn left onto I-90 westbound or right onto I-90 eastbound. Traveling from Celtice to I-90, drivers from both directions will have 2 lane choices, one for eastbound I-90 and another to travel west. Similarly, drivers traveling on Highway 41 from Mulligan to I-90 will turn left onto I-90 eastbound or right onto I-90 westbound. Traffic along I-90 will continue to flow past the interchange as it does today. The new interchange design improves the safety and connectivity of existing bike and pedestrian corridors. Sidewalks will be added or restored throughout the project area. Bike lanes will be added on both sides of Ross Point, Celtice, and Mulligan. This project will improve the intersection of the Highway 41 Trail and Centennial Trail including a new pedestrian signal across Celtice. A new bike path will replace the existing Highway 41 bike path and provide access from the Central and Primrose intersection, as well as the Mullen and 41 intersection to the south side of the interstate. A tunnel will be added for the bike path to cross under the eastbound on-ramp. A bridge will be added for the bike path to cross over the westbound off-ramp. A second tunnel will be added for the bike path to cross under Highway 41. The new spooey will facilitate higher volumes of traffic safely and more efficiently than the existing interchange. Be sure to drive slowly and carefully when first navigating the new interchange in order to become familiar with it. Read overhead directional signs for assistance. The Idaho Transportation Department thanks you for your interest in this project and for taking the time to learn about it. To learn more, please click the link in the description below.
Okay, so that's going to be our design. We're really excited for it. I think spueys provide a lot of operational benefit, right? Because you're condensing two signals, in our case, 3 signals down into one that have less phases. And this is also not the offset spuey idea, right? Spueys have been around. We have several in Boise. If you've ever flown into the Boise airport, right? That first interchange to get onto I-84 is a spuey. We also just opened one at Highway 53 and 95 up here. And offset spueys actually aren't that new of a thing. We looked and we found several instances where, agencies had similar constraints we did, where we have, kind of one of our major design constraints was the proximity of Celtice to I-90 and just trying to get the signal separation such that those would work well. Because what we have now obviously is reached the end of its design life in terms of capacity and efficiency there. So we aren't the only ones. We are, I think, one of the first, but not the first. So sometimes that's the way to be, I think. Here's just another 3D view of it, just kind of showing where we're at. You're standing kind of like above the Verizon store, across from the vet center, looking north as to what it will look like. Okay, so construction impacts, right? This is probably what everyone's really excited about. So this project, we're looking at construction cost, of contract cost, I guess, probably between the $60 and $80 million range. And so this is money where the contractor will be here for 3 years, right? It's going to be 4 construction seasons, but because we're getting it advertised a little late this spring, we're going to start midsummer, and so we're going to go halfway into a 4th construction season, right? So, but they'll be here for 3 years, just kind of all the benefits that brings. Generally, our plan, and I guess my disclaimer when I'm talking about construction impacts is always if I've printed the schedule off, it's out of date, right? And ITD's specifications do allow the contractor to provide alternate staging patterns. That being said, I think generally the contractor will go with the approach we have just because of how complex this project is and also some constraints we have that make it easier to work on I-90 first. But it could change. But our plan is to start with I-90 and then move up north towards Highway 41. And it's I think 8 phases overall with sub-phases in there. So it's going to be a pretty dynamic work zone with several different traffic patterns that Megan and I have developed a pretty robust communications plan to make sure that we're keeping everyone involved. And we'll definitely make sure that, Rob's involved and so we can continue to pass on kind of those impacts as needed, and 511 will be updated as well. We are going to keep 2 lanes of traffic in both directions open on I-90 during peak travel times. So fingers crossed I-90 should still flow pretty well. We will allow nighttime lane closures and potentially some more impactful weekend work when the traffic volumes are lower, depending on kind of what's needed. Because there are just some things that, you kind of just need a little bit longer. The biggest impact is that we are going to have to do about an 8-month closure of the westbound off-ramp. Just because if, the existing, does this have a laser on it? Oh, that's not, wasn't it? Shoot. Okay, well, I don't know where the laser is on this, but the existing intersection of the westbound of all the ramps, and Highway 41 is kind of right where that westbound off-ramp is right now. So in order to work in those together, we're gonna have to close the ramp there for that. But we put a pretty aggressive time limit on it based on our production schedule of the contractor, working 6 days a week. And so I think that, you know, we've done what we can. We'll definitely work with the contractor as much as we can to try to minimize that as well. And we've been, you know, working through, you know, maybe potentially what the impacts are. The official detour will be to go to Celtice. We're gonna put temp traffic signals at Celtice and get back on I-90. But I mean, I take this interchange when I use the freeway, and I will definitely probably be self-detouring other ways. So we know people are gonna be doing that as well. And so we kind of looked a little bit at some preliminary traffic modeling, so we're ready when we close that ramp for, you know, maybe some other spots where we might have some increased volumes as well to try to mitigate that with some signal timing. We are gonna reduce the speed limits on all the roadways, on I-90, 41, and Celtice. And we are going to maintain business access during construction to all the businesses on Highway 41. And we will work with the businesses, and, you know, if we need to, while we're reconstructing like their driveway, to, you know, make that fit in a time maybe where they're not open, or to do half at a time, and to make sure that that works for them. So here's a graphic of what the westbound off-ramp detour will look like. Like I said, you'll continue on I-90, get off at Celtice. We're gonna put 2 temp traffic signals at those ramp terminals because they're much needed, especially once we put all the westbound off-ramp traffic onto them, and to come back around on I-90 and get off at 41. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Erica to talk about some design work we have going on I-90.
Thanks, Shannon. Yep, so for the I-90 corridor-wide improvement plan, as I said earlier, right now we are working on the corridor study for I-90 between Washington State Line and Sherman Avenue. So that's roughly about 15 miles. We're looking at 10 different interchanges and about 30 different structures that we need to analyze. The red and green dots, they're a little bit hard to see, but out of those 30 structures, I want to say about 80% of them will have to be replaced or modified, just because as you're widening I-90, some of them are reaching their lifespan. A lot of the interchanges, as we're looking at doing the traffic analysis, will probably show up of needing some different configurations, just like the State Highway 41, to meet future travel demand needs. But essentially, in our first study, we will be looking at all of this and taking into consideration of what do we need. So a couple highlights of the corridor study. It's a 2045 planning horizon, so we're forecasting out to 2045. And things that the study and traffic analysis will look at and consider includes additional through lanes on I-90, so just widening that in general, potentially some auxiliary lanes between interchange ramps, bridge improvements like I talked about, interchange, and then ramp improvements too. We're currently working on traffic analysis, and our first big meetings that we have coming up is value planning sessions. And so as Shannon explained earlier about State Highway 41 value planning session, it's a week-long session on steroids where you get a lot of super smart people, community members in a room together, and you focus on a set of topics. So in June, we're focusing on the interchanges at Northwest Boulevard, US 95, and 4th Street, and then as well as on I-90, how it connects between those 3. And so I know I've got consultants right now working on up to, I think, like 20 different alternatives, and we'll condense those down, figure out what works best, what doesn't, maybe merge some things together. But that's all happening in June. And then July, we're gonna focus on Post Falls. So we're gonna look at the Spokane Street and Celtice Way interchanges. Some of our alternatives are incorporating changes to Idaho Street as well, so we're gonna look at all of those. Prior to going into this value planning session, we'll be reaching out to Rob and Bill and coming here to Post Falls to show the alternatives. We really want to make sure that the city is comfortable going into the value planning session with what's being proposed. And just, you know, we're partners, so we need to be a part of the team, all of us together. In that week-long session in July, we end on Friday with a presentation. It's about a 2-hour presentation to stakeholders to say, here's a condensed version of what we looked at and the preferred alternatives that came out of it. And so we've got some opportunities for yourselves. We can certainly share the link. We're gonna host this at ITD District 1 office in Coeur d'Alene. You're welcome to come, or, you know, I'm more than happy to come back after July, probably in August, once we synthesize all the information and do another one of these presentations for you. So you can see what we talked about, what we considered, and the preferred alternatives that came out of it. I think it's important that you get that information in front of you because our plan is in fall of 2022 to have a public meeting. Because it is a quarter study, we want to get those comments from the community. And so we'll be able to then do this public meeting, and it will describe the entire I-90 corridor. So it's not just focused on Post Falls, but we'll have all the information about these interchange alternatives. But it'll really look at the widening itself and every interchange and the effects that our traffic analysis has shown and what the needs improvements are. Our goal for this corridor study is to get environmental approval in spring of 2023. And so what that environmental approval really gives us is the opportunity then to move forward in design really quickly and also with right-of-way acquisition. So ITD can't purchase any right-of-way until we get environmental approval. Our goal is obviously to stay within the right-of-way on I-90 as much as possible, but when we're looking at interchange improvements, some of these bridge modifications, there will be impacts to local roads where ITD might need to purchase some right-of-way that way. Estimated at a very high planning level right now for the entire 15 miles is about $600 million to $775 million for all the costs of improvements. Now you look at that $775 million and you say, wow, the Tekken program budget is $1.6 billion, that's eaten at everything. Yes, as I said earlier, we don't have enough money in Tekken to fund the entire I-90 corridor. It'll be prioritization with ITD and the different local jurisdictions of what's the next project we should focus on, and then for ITD to come up with some other opportunities. We're looking to advance these projects on all 13 corridors. Color money doesn't really matter to us. We're willing to take money from everywhere and anyone. We just know that these are critical infrastructure projects that need to get done. So knowing that there's a limited budget, we are actually fast-tracking our first priority. So it's a little bit risky because we don't have the environmental done, but in looking at initial traffic analysis, the segment on I-90 between Spokane Street to Northwest Boulevard has your highest traffic volumes today, and they're only projected to get to increase in the future by 2045. And so we feel really confident, and have met with Federal Highway Administration about moving forward with a design package to just do I-90 widening. And so what the analysis has shown so far, but we need to look into it a little bit more, is that 3 lanes in both directions are needed on I-90 between Spokane Street and State Highway 41, so the future interchange that Shannon's working on. And then from 41 to Northwest Boulevard, you actually need 4 lanes in both directions. And so it's a pretty big widening, but you've got a lot of traffic going on and off between those areas. And so that's what I'm working on a contract right now to get underway to start designing for that. In addition to the I-90 mainline widening itself, we'll be looking at making ramp improvements. A lot of the ramps don't meet current geometric standards for lengths, you know, trying to merge on and off so it doesn't feel like you're being rushed and you have opportunity to look over your shoulder, find the appropriate gaps. So there'll be ramp improvements just where it touches I-90. We won't be making any ramp improvements up to the signalized intersections, just right along the main line. The reason for that is because we're really just trying to focus on this widening package. We'll come back through after the value planning sessions this summer and look at what are the needs at Spokane Street, at Celtice, at Northwest Boulevard, and we'll come back with a separate design package to address the interchanges themselves. The structures that we know need to be replaced are Hutter, the structure at Hutter, the one at Atlas, and Prairie Trail real close to Northwest Boulevard. So those bridges will be replaced. At Hutter and Atlas, we need to lower grade on the local road. So we'll be working really closely with you guys of what that looks like. We want to make sure you have good clearance. It's, I want to say like 14, 15 feet right now, maybe a little bit more, but we want to be able to get you that clearance you need under those structures. Our goal is to have construction plans ready in spring of 2024. So it'll take us about 18 months, 2 years to get those construction plans ready. We don't have funding currently approved for this yet, but the goal really is, it's early in the Tekken program. If I can get the design package out, we'll be able to slip it in with this $1.6 billion and get it constructed maybe in summer of 2024. But that funding hasn't been approved yet. It's just the design that's been approved. We estimate the cost, again, at, you know, Shannon's project was 60 to 80 million. Ours is going to be about 60 to 80 million. It might increase a little bit, you know, because we estimate in 2022 dollars. 2 years of construction is anticipated just because of the number of lanes that we're widening to, and then those bridge structures as well. So it'll take 2 seasons. And we're making sure everything on this project is forward compatible with future interchange improvements. Some of the ramp modifications might change depending on the outcome of the interchanges themselves, but we're trying to do our best to make sure there's a limited amount of throwaway. The main line itself will be designed appropriately, so we won't have to come back in the future and make changes to that when we're doing the interchanges. With that, we wanted to leave enough time, and we hit our mark precisely. Shannon and I were shooting for 30 minutes to give you an opportunity to ask questions. We're both really excited about our projects, this opportunity that's, you know, come to the Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene area, as well as across the whole state for these. So, you know, feel free to ask.
Well, thank you for your presentation, for the information, and I saw Mr. Malloy clapping with the expediting the interchange. That's huge. Because I was thinking it was going to be at least 2024, so that is good news.
Oh, that was very good news. I'm very happy for that.
Hard to imagine that we're going to need 4 lanes in each direction, but I can see where that would be the case. So, again, it's only money, but it's an extremely large project, and I appreciate the information you provided and the work that you folks are doing. We look forward to the progress and the result, not so much a construction time frame, but the end result will be good. Any questions or comments?
I have a question about the video that you had there. Even though it says 2023, and
yeah, it is.
You gave us the gift of 2022.
We made that video actually in the spring of 2020 for our virtual open house to share with people, right? Because that was one of the challenges of, you know, pivoting last minute from an in-person open house to a virtual one, is how do we, you know, convey the information that we wanted to, and so that was one of the things that
well, it's a great visual, and I'm just wondering if that is something that we can share.
Yes, so it is. If you go onto itdprojects.org, and actually I think,
and Carrie, I've sent it to you. I've shared it with council and with the chamber.
How long ago? A long time? Years?
It's probably been a few months.
She shares a lot of things with us.
Yeah, so actually, if you're ever curious about what the heck ITD is doing, we have itdprojects.org. It has practically all of our projects on here. And there's a map over here, and you can, I have to control click. And you can scroll into where we're at on any of these. This is the website for Erica's project, and then mine is lumped in for now with the rest of the Highway 41 improvements. But what I've got on here on my project, there's a couple things on here. All of our projects have a contact us page, and if you click on those are set to go to each individual project manager. So you'll get, or if we have like a corridor wide email that we're having someone help us manage because we think it's going to be a high contact project, it'll go to that, but it'll go directly to someone, and you can reach out to us. We'll get back to you, let you know what's going on. And so this website is actually where the video's from. We have a little bit more of a walkthrough of the project, which we do on all of them, and then anytime on a project that we do a public event, like an open house or online meeting or any of that, or a public meeting or any of that, we post those resources here. So you can also see in here we've got some I guess kind of maps of the project design, and then because our spring 2020 open house was virtual, we actually recorded videos of some PowerPoints that kind of were meant to imitate what you would experience at an in-person open house walking around the station. So it was quite the pivot, quite the fun thing. Like all of us, I'm sure, had many fun things we had to do that spring to try to get done while we were all working from home and not able to be in person on it.
Well, what you just showed today.
Yep, but that's on here, yep. It's also on ITD's YouTube channel, but it's right here, and it's publicly accessible, and you can
fly over by design.
Yep.
Because that is.
Oh, yes.
Very user-friendly to get that overview, the flyover view, but especially with the pedestrian.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure how that was going to happen.
Yeah, I am so excited for that. We were able to get a lot of good improvements.
And more so than just showing a one-dimensional picture.
Yeah.
By being able to show how that all works.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Don't see any other comments or questions.
yeah.
Appreciate your time. And with that, we will
Yeah, and
adjourn this meeting and
Rob and Bill know how to get a hold of me too.
Do you live here?
I do.
You live in Post Office?
Yeah, I'm kind of over by
Bean,
the high
thank
school.
you.
That's where I am.